A very good afternoon to you all and welcome to Youth Fiji third webinar series, Developing Youths for the Future of Fiji. Today we have a very exciting presentation for you. We have two very talented HR professionals. We'll be talking about reshaping job search techniques. So if you are someone who is currently hunting for jobs, you want to change your performance at an interview, be confident when you talk to HR practitioners, or when you want to be confident in an interview, then this presentation is for you. Moving on, today's agenda. Firstly, I'll be introducing you to our two guest speakers, Mr. Ronald Reddy and Mr. Hitesh Chandra. And then beginning with Mr. Reddy will begin with his presentation, following up with Mr. Hitesh Chandra. We'll be open for question and answers and closing with vote of thanks. Once again, my name is Krisha and I'll be moderating this web series for Youth Fiji in today's session. Once again, I welcome each one of you to the presentation. And before we introduce our guest speakers, there are a few things that you should know. As you all know, your mic is on mute. But however, the chat page is open throughout this webinar. So feel free to ask questions as this is your opportunity to make the most of it. Please note, as you know, Youth Fiji is now all over social media, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, or our Viber community. We are famous everywhere. Okay, also take note that this webinar series will be recorded and uploaded to our Youth Fiji YouTube channel in a week's time frame. Not taking much of your time, I know you guys are excited to know who are our guest speakers. So firstly, I would like to introduce you to
Mr. Ronald Reddy. Mr. Ronald Reddy is the head of People and Productivity at Future Farms Pte. Limited. He has 20 plus years of experience in serving three unique and high performing industries: electrical utility, generation, transmission and distribution systems, aviation, airport operations and air navigation service providers, and food manufacturing industries, mainly in technical, electrical engineering of device and protection of systems. Then to do the training and development of individuals for their knowledge and skill transfers. This further flows to an organizational level in strategy and business improvement, leading to engagement of people and improving productivity through integrated systems. Mr. Ronald Reddy has been recognized as HR Manager of the Year, Gold Award in 2018 by the Fiji Human Resource Institute, a Gold Prize winner for Senior HR Practitioner of Year in 2015, and a Gold Prize winner for National Convention in Quality in 2014 by Fiji National University. Mr. Ronald Reddy is also an evaluator in Fiji Business Excellence Award in Fiji.
Once again, sir, I would like to thank you for being part of this webinar and taking out your precious time for Youth Fiji webinar. Thank you. I'm not taking much of your time again. On the same note, I would like to introduce Mr. Hitesh, our second guest speaker of the day. Mr. Hitesh Chandra has 13 years of experience in the field of HR, people management, and training. He is involved in driving system compliances throughout the organization and providing expert advice in human resource management. Mr. Hitesh is a registered and qualified trainer instructor with Fiji National University, an incredible OHS trainer of Ministry of Employment, Productivity and National Relations, consultant in HRM for USPTEF, and director for Provid Consultancy, where he promotes capacity in development workforce throughout training in leadership, customer service, OHS, talent management, performance management as needed by the organizations in Fiji. He is also a professional member for Fiji Human Resource Institute, Australian Institute of Human Resource, member of past President Rotary Club of Suva North, and member of Leadership Fiji and member of Prevention of Blindness Community. Mr. Hitesh is currently working as Immigration Manager for Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, which is also known as New Zealand Immigration, with senior and leadership role held in HR in organizations like Pacific Centacom, subsidiary of Fiji Airways, Save the Children Fund of Fiji, and Vinod Patel. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Ronald Reddy to begin with his presentation. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Reddy.
Okay, thank you very much, Bolo guys. Those of us that are joining this afternoon, we'll just take you through some of the things that is definitely needed when you are applying for a job or when you're doing your attending an interview or even after that, and even beyond that, what are the things that can be helpful to you in terms of your skills, your attitudes, and your knowledge. So. And after the session, I believe if you have questions, then you can put it to the forum and we'll be able to take those questions on board. Now, when it comes to interviews, I guess interviews are one of those most challenging things, most challenging areas to be attending and to be part of. Businesses and organizations hire people for the sole need to deliver their objectives, whether they are a profitable organization or they are a charitable organization. What we as or you as individual need to know is when you are attending an interview, there's a need for you to know the organization. Now, before you attend an interview, it is essential. It's important that you know what this organization is about, what kind of business that they are involved in. Now, when we look at the current era that we are living in, where the business has been operating, arguably it's probably one of the most challenging times of our generations that we have lived in, and going through the pandemic, which has taken across the whole globe. This has also opened the job market so wide that there is so many people available out there right now for organizations. So when you apply for a job role, what do you know about that organization? What is the information that you have at hand? Before attending, think of these, friends. An interview is very much compared to an opportunity to make a lasting impression. Now, I believe we have a good number of young people here. You meet some people, say, you're meeting friends, you want to make some lasting impression, an impression that lasts for the first time that you meet this person. This is never a false statement. What matters is what kind of impression that you're making at an interview. For an example, you probably would have watched some TV talent shows. Now we have these talent shows all over TV, all over YouTube. Have you noticed how some of these participants, they come and they make an impression? Now some they make real good impressions. They come, they become top notches, they go on to win talent shows. But there are some that give you a very bad taste. Now why do they do this? They do this, friends, because they do not understand what the talent show is all about. Similarly, in an interview, if we don't make an impact, maybe we have missed the mark where we did not prepare ourselves or we did not really understand the need of the business. So all in all, friends, you need to prepare and you need to find out things that are key to the survival of any business. Um, One key element you all must remember is your own interest as well. Now, at one stage, when you are thinking that what this company is doing, on the other side of the coin is your interest. So, if you're applying for a role, is it because you want a job right now? Or is it because this is something that you have always wanted to do? Now, this takes us to the second part that I just want to talk about is understanding and knowing your own motives or your own reasons behind applying for a job. A few years back, I was part of a training session that I attended with my colleagues, and if you want to, you can always go and search this training. It's called Franklin Covey. It provides a whole lot of good trainings, and it's about leadership, effective leadership. And sometimes when we say leadership, friends, we think, oh, leaders are the guys, with titles, with managerial roles. In fact, it's not that. Leadership is about an individual who has the ability to deliver what is given to that person and follow through and keep on making impact across the business or whatever you're doing. To do that, it's the key thing here is you begin with the end in mind. Now, a lot of people may across whatever they do is they tie it down with processes. But before you ensure what processes you want to do, you must understand what is the results you want to establish. Attending an interview, applying for a job is very much the same. We need to understand why we are applying for a role or why we want to join an organization. It's very important. So to do that, you should have your individual plans. What are you going to do in a year's time? What are you going to do in 3 years' time, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time? I know at times this might sound very routine because we say, okay, we need to make plans, but then we also need a job. We need to do this or we need to do that. But it is important that we make some plans for ourselves. We know exactly, or at least we have a guideline as to where we want to be in the next few years. And then it will help you to align your interview to the needs of where you want to be going. Then, have you really sat down and really thought before attending an interview? Have you consulted some of your friends, some of people that are part of your professional network? If you have, then that is good. If you haven't, then before you attend another interview going forward, this is a very important thing that you need to do. And this also leads us to thinking, how do we build our network? Now we have a whole range of social media platforms. We have Facebook. Krisha has just mentioned the platforms that Youth Fiji is onto. We have LinkedIn, Instagram. You can name all these things. Amidst these people that you have made friends, who are part of your professional network? Have you made a distinction between your professional network and your personal network? I can see sometimes I'm part of LinkedIn, but in LinkedIn, sometimes people put screenshots of posts where a man is trying to flirt with another woman. Now that's not professional networking, friends. You probably can, not encouraging you to do that, but if you're doing that on a personal network, probably to some extent that could be acceptable in that particular platform. But in a professional network, you try and build your own capacity. You try and build what you want to gain out of networking with those people. So that's how you connect. You connect with people who are like-minded to you. You connect with people that make a difference to your own career. And this career, we're not talking about you who have just graduated now. This career would span in the next 3, 5, 10, 20 years. When you look back, you should have felt that, yes, I have done this. So you need to identify your motives before attending them. Why do we say this, friends? Because the people that will interview you, remember, they have gone across. We're not talking about the HR manager who's going to interview. We're talking about the person who probably reporting to, the people that will actually be leading your team that you're part of. Now, these are the people that have been through a lot of tough things in their life. And when they sit down, when they listen to you, when they ask you, there's a reason they ask you certain things. One of the things I personally find they're trying to gather is that how genuine are you as a person that could be part of that particular organization or team? Now, you probably would be thinking, how do we really go about identifying genuinity? Genuinity is something that will come out. First thing, I believe my dear friend here, Hitesh, will take us through the CV and how this can be derived from. But genuinity will also come through how you portray yourself or project yourself in an interview. Who the person that you are. So if you have to attend an interview, you need to be prepared. You need to have identified your motives. The added effort that you have made. Just imagine if you go and sit down and if you have been asked to introduce yourself, you introduce yourself and they might ask you, can you just tell us a bit about this company? Now, in telling us a bit about the company, you as an interviewee, if you go and learn a bit of things about the company that is very important in this company's survival in that business mode, imagine the impact that you are making. I'm telling you this because of my personal experience in dealing with people in an interview. If you add this touch into an interview, it really adds value. And just remember this, friends, you might not be successful in that interview. It's about you putting that first impression to the panel and to the people that are in leadership in that organization. If you are into wanting to be part of that organization, that yes, I'm a person out there who knows what I want, who's very clear about my goals and directions. And if I'm part of your team, I will add value. And businesses, they want people that add value to their teams. Remember this. Even though businesses have prescriptive JDs and they'll tell you to do this, but at the same time, they want people that can add value. So we should be always very clear on this. We need to know where we are headed. And onto these, friends, if you do not have a mentor, if you do not have links that you look up to in terms of your professional spirit space, please align yourself to this, because you need mentors, you need people to look up to, you need guidance so that you can grow yourself into a professional space, right? Uh, Apart from this, the other key thing that any organization requires is skills, right? So on a day of an interview, at times assessing somebody's skills is something bit of a challenge for everybody, for the person giving the interview and the people taking the interview as well. Now, in today's world, we have people who have considerable skills for many job roles, and that's what the world of business is after today. Um, for example, a person who has a degree in IT could have a good number of skills in the HR area, or vice versa. Just as an example, in any of these cases, what is required is the ability of an individual to demonstrate his or her skills through a proven record. In other words, skills are also linked to to your experiences in the roles that you have gained exposure in. So if a person is doing an interview, they have already gone through your CV, through your letters. I'll give you an example of an interview. Um, Sorry, I will not mention any names, but just to let you know so that we avoid situations like this. Uh, Once I was part of a panel which was doing an interview, and we had somebody that came, walked through the door, came and sat down with a lot of, you could see in the person's persona, there was a lot of ego. And then when the question started, the very first question that this person asked us was, didn't I submit my CV? So what is the first thing that would come to your mind if you're in the panel? You know that this person brings with him a lot of ego. You do not want to have, so many egos to deal with in an organization. You want people that are teachable. You are people that have the ability to learn. And you definitely do not have, when you see people like that, definitely you know that skills with level of experience is definitely missing, because when you work in any industry, your skills is you're definitely honing your skills, but remember, you also want to hone your people skills, the skills that will be very much needed. When you look at the situation now, organizations or business will see the role versus what you have gained, your experience in. So if anybody is doing a shortlisting, they'll have this whole link before them, everything in your application, your CV before them, and the person is looking at it, and then they go through each and everything, and then they make a decision. Now, for example, understanding skill set is very much as understanding how a product performs in a market. Like if you have to say toothpaste, how many of us at home, sorry friends, if you don't use this particular brand, no offense, but how many of us at home, if you do your shopping list and you say bring toothpaste, at home, I'm definite at home here, me and my wife, we just say Colgate, because that's a brand at the back of our head. It's branding. So when you see a new product, how do you react? If you go to the supermarket, you see Colgate, and then which is $2.50, and then this is a new brand which is $1.50, which has got more content to it. Which one would you buy? Your hands would definitely defect and will go and buy Colgate, because you is something that you're used to. Now, when people are making a selection in terms of the skill requirements, there's a branding in their head. They're relating that branding in terms of what they require in the organization versus what you have in your CV and application. So that is very important there. So basically, we look for for this. These are the things that are needed in the. So when you project your skills, it should have an impact on the business and the organization. Now, these things take time to build. Person who has the ability to fulfill the expectations. So, when you look at a toothpaste, okay, it's not going to do the job of the Colgate that I'm using, so why should I get it? So look at it from that perspective too. A lot of this has to do with how we understand the market and the space that we operate in. In some of the experience that I have been through, a lot of people would have come for an interview, and they come with all these bubbly personalities and good vibes. But in terms of skills, and I'd like to touch a bit on attitudes of this, certain things that are missing. Now, those are the things that we need to guide ourselves into. Uh, Moving on, friends. So, say for example, you attended the interview, and now you are waiting. You have some level of expectation out of that interview. This is probably one of the toughest part of dealing with people outside the interview area. And you, as an individual, I believe it's also hard for you when you attend an interview and then you do not get a positive feedback. Uh, I'd like to relate to an example of a gentleman, very smart, how he expected that he would be part of the team joining in, but unfortunately he didn't, because the organization had some other needs, right? So he started calling the organization and saying, how come I didn't get it? I was ranked this, I was ranked that. And he ended up, his parents started calling the organization saying, my child is has so much good marks. But the other side of the theme is that we need to understand the feelings behind this. So that's something for HR people to do. You understand and then you give a response. But from an interviewee side, when you handle rejections, you need to be resilient. Resilient is a word that is so often used, but I personally believe it is very less understood. Resilient is the very simple definition of resilient is being normal and the ability for you to grow and learn new things as you go along without being frustrated. Interview is an area, and as an individual, we should never let getting into an interview and thinking if we do not get the role, and it tells us that we as an individual, we lack something and we need to do something better about it. All you tell yourself is that, look, I'm not part of this product requirement of this organization. Okay, fine. I need to build my brand as I go along. And as I build my brand, I will be recognized individually. If you go and you probably have time, you go and learn about all these the guys in tech, big guys in Amazon, uh, Jack Ma even from China. They didn't start off well, but they ended off very well. Recently, I saw somebody posting about Coca-Cola. They only sold around 25 bottles in their first year, but today it's probably one of the biggest brand in the world. So that's how we want to be. That's how resilience is. You keep to what you want to do and you strive to do the best that you can do. I was just thinking to relate the example. My own wife, when she started applying for uh, job, at one stage, together we put in about 40 applications. 40 applications. So when you put in 40 applications, he was expecting something to come. Eventually, there was only 2 or 3 that came back, but nothing went through. So that can become very discouraging. But she stood her course, and she eventually got something that she wanted. So uh, this generation that we are in now, most of us we call this generation millenniums or Gen Z or Gen Y. Sometimes we want things to be done very quick. We want all the good things very quick. Some of us are fortunate to get the things quick very fast, but at times we need to hold on to our ground and then just wait. So apply, wait, never give up. Sometimes we define success in all funny ways, but remember, friends, success is not really about positions or titles. It is more to do with your own personal contentment and what you have achieved versus what you plan to achieve. It has to do with goals that you set and what amount of goals you've achieved. You review that and you move on. Now, part of it has to do with the kind of work that you do and the things that you have committed yourself onto. Going further onto these, friends, follow-ups after interviews are also another place where you, as an individual, you set your brand. You can always email. I do personally get emails. I get calls, and so does so many other managers and HR people across Fiji and across the world. And we do respond. When we respond, there's something at the back of our mind that this person definitely doesn't give up. This person has something. That's why he or she wants to put this to the company. So that stays at the back of our mind. And, they do. Just remember one thing, when you do your follow-ups, stay modest about it. It's a follow-up about your interview. It's not an interrogation to the company, please. Do not interrogate the person that is interviewing you, because they have so many other things that they need to align. And if you're doing a kind and modest follow-up, you will get a feedback. So, and then why are you doing this? Why do you need to follow? So you keep the door open for future opportunities. So, there's going to be a whole lot of opportunities that will come your way. Now, when you do this, you keep the door open for future opportunities. When it comes to your attitudes and behaviors are very important. Behaviors are something we see, and these are the requirements of the work. From a business perspective, all of these are important. Your knowledge, your skill set, and the attitude that you bring to the team. Because it tells us that who you are, what qualities do you bring, how do you handle critical situations, how do you make decisions, and how do you handle rejections when your decisions are not taken in. In any interview, friends, you will somehow need to demonstrate this. I believe it's going to be different for many of us, but in my personal space, I believe that things that I would look for would be how genuine a person is. You know, how much articulation can they do on a particular subject. Uh, Two critical things: you must always show humility. There's a line to draw, and how much resilience you have when you are dealing with things. Yeah? Organizations now, and in Fiji, to organizations now have evolved from being ones that gives directions to ones that develop and train their people. If you go about 30 years back, friends, in Fiji even, you probably didn't have a proper HR department, or now we call our HR department the human, yeah, capital department, or people's department, learning and development departments. Now, we did not exist back a few years back. We only had a personal department which used to take care of all these things. The reason to have these departments is that we train the people in an organization so they can understand the organization's vision and they can grow the organization's vision. Now, when you have a department which works across the business, now these are the people that work with people that has the capability and the capacity of people that can attain to those visions. So we must understand, before you go to an interview, friends, you must also know that your attitudes are aligned to what the organization requires. If it is not, then see how best fit that you can be. Once again, genuinity comes in. It is important that you understand the organization's needs in terms of their culture. Now, culture is very important. You hear a company's name, okay, somebody will say that's the culture of the company. Now, behind that culture, there's so many things. Do some research about it. Align yourself to that if you want to be part of such an organization. Just the last thing from me. Many organizations also want to see your ability to do additional in your current role, even though it might not come. But if you have seen a JD, you will see anything else assigned by your supervisor. Now, once again, it's value creation, adding value. And one space that I've seen people grow is in the line of quality management and excellence, which is overall productivity in organization. For the company that I currently work in, it's called Future Farms Pty Limited, or the brand that we supply is Frusta. Uh, that's one thing that we empower our people, and that is to ensure that each and every employee has that opportunity to add value to the company. How do they do that? We use the concept called quality circles, where you form groups, you come up with improvement ideas, you present your project, and these projects have gone on to by individuals, and some of these individuals probably are not even graduates like many of you are, but these individuals have done projects which have been recognized at a global platform. by using simple productivity and quality and excellence tools. So, you align yourself to something additional. Now, it could be this, it could be something else, but whatever it is, it should add value to you as a person. You should be passionate about it, and also it should add value to the company that you are aspiring to be part of. Now, if you do that, friends, then definitely you aligning yourself, you're projecting yourself to be someone that can be part of an organization, and you also telling the organization that yes, I'm here to grow, I'm here to learn, and I'm going to be part of the sustainability of this organization. And once you do that, definitely you increasing your brand, and then you're increasing your professional network as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, welcome today to this to the trade webinar for the USPG. And first of all, I'd like to thank Ronald for his presentation. I think he had highlighted some of the very important things that we as organizations or we as employees are looking forward for. And in my presentation, basically what I would be doing a bit of overlap of some of the things he said. So you will find that some of the things that he said that were really valuable and which I will also sharing, because as you know, these are very key elements of any employer who basically are looking for people to fill in their role. And again, if you look at us as employers, recruiters, what we need is basically to have the right person with the right skills on the right job at the right time. Right. So today I will be talking about CVs and application letters. So these are the two very important elements which basically makes you where you are. So it's about linking yourself, and it's the tantamount that you have within yourself to make yourself out there to the employers. So today I'm going to talk about why CV. And when I want to talk about why CV, I will be talking about your curriculum by your career vision. So basically, I would be telling you how to create a CV and some of the pointers, some of the things put through industry experience, what we have seen and what we can put out there for you to take on board to ensure that you are doing things right from the beginning. Now, what is a CV? So, but before this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask all of you a very silly relevant question. All right, a very silly relevant question. And my question is basically, how many of you brush your teeth? That is basically my question. Right. So going back to my question, it's being silly because all of us brush our teeth. Now, how is it relevant? Relevant is because when I ask the question, all of you would have started, smile. So basically, if it was a face-to-face, I would have seen some of your white teeth, crooked teeth, broken teeth. So basically, I got my answer already. Because that's why I call it a silly relevant question. Because the answer is in the question, and you don't have to do anything, because I get my answer by basically visualizing you. Right? So if I ask you this question again, how many of you brush your teeth? Would anybody would probably like to answer this question for me? How many of you here? Okay, all of you brush your teeth, right? So the other part of the question is, what do you use? What do you use to brush your teeth? I can get anybody to answer me that. What do you use to brush your teeth?
Toothpaste.
Toothpaste. Anybody else? Good. Right. Toothpaste. Very good. Now,
Toothbrush and toothpaste.
Toothpaste. Very good. Now, when you talk about toothpaste, what do you use? I think Ronald covered this very well. What do you use when you brush your teeth? Which toothpaste do you use?
Colgate.
Right. Correct. So Basically, I think Ron covered this very well. And it's very true what Ron mentioned, that whenever, if we brush our teeth, most of us would say we use Colgate. The reason why we use Colgate is because Colgate is a brand. It's a brand. So when you're out in the supermarket, you go to the shelves, and honestly, my friends, what you will see is just line and varieties of Colgate. You'll see triple action, you will see cavity protection, big, small, in many tubes. Because this is what it is. It's Colgate. It's a brand. It has taken over the aisles of other toothpaste. You would never, even if you find a brand toothpaste, it will be set up in the corner. Why? Because Colgate has taken everything. Because it's a brand. It's out there. It's selling itself. So why am I sharing you with this and also share with you also the reason why? Because if you talk about CV, your CV is your brand. You are there to sell yourself. If you always look at things like, oh, you always want to look for employer of choice. Right? I want to work for Vodafone, right? It's an employer of choice. I want to work for Future Farms, right? It's an employer of choice because you heard so many things about the employer. But what are you doing to make yourself the employee of the choice? How are you branding yourself? What have you put yourself? How have you made your CV to brand yourself? So this is what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk and share with you some key perspective of how you can create a competency-based brand-oriented CV. This is what I'm going to talk about. Because if you don't know, my friends, CV is a very important part of your brand. Because if you have to sell yourself, you have to sell it through a CV. And how you do your CV is very important. Nowadays, what we as an employer we prefer is called the competency-based brand CV, or we call it the UK-based CV. This is what we do. We have moved away. We moved away from a normal concept of just typing anyhow you want. We as an employer, we want a competency-based branded CV or a UK-based CV. And I'm going to share you what this CV is about. I'm hoping with this I can inspire all of you who are basically looking for employment or change or wanting to change how you can go back and relook your CV. Because again, as I said, it's your brand. You have to brand it, you have to give yourself to be the employee of the choice to the employer who should hire you. That's a key important thing. You have to move away from the stigma of the concept that I just go and probably I'm not worth it, or there are other people who better deserve the job. It's not about that. It's about how you make that first impression, as Ronald mentioned. You have to equip yourself with that. And how you equip it is with your competency. Very important element that we have talked about. Ronald has talked about it already. What competency? So let's just define competency. So Ronald has said a lot of things about it, but let's put it into more perspective and see perspective to understand what competency is. So competency as defined is ability to apply and use your related knowledge, skills and abilities, which we call the KSA. So during my presentation, I will be emphasizing a lot on this. So all of you, if I talk about KSA, you should know this: knowledge, skills and abilities. And these are the key things that require to successfully perform your job. So when you have a job to do, these your KSA are the things that is needed. But how do we embed KSA? How do we embed KSA in our application? How do we embed KSA in our CV? So this is in my further slides. I'm going to show you how we are going to use KSA. It's a very important element. So remember, your knowledge, your skills, and your abilities are three basic key important things you need from beginning, that is from your application letter into your CV and into your interview. This is how it needs to be done so that you are able to get the job. It's about passion. It's about what you can do, but it's not just waiting for things to happen. You have to understand these key three important things, and I'm going to shed some more light on this for us so that we are better equipped in terms of being the person we want based on our competency. Now, what I have here, basically, I don't know if you can see, this is basically a advertisement, right? And this, and to be honest, this is one advertisement I took out from the Youth Fiji Baba group community. So I just took it out from there. I'm trying to use the resources that are already available and that's been shared by the Youth Fiji. And I honestly say this is a very good platform. I see people are trying to help each other. So again, I'd like to thank Youth Fiji for these great initiatives and also bringing us to get more sharing of or impartment of knowledge around this area. So this is the CV. So what I've done is I'm just showing you the main things, right? So on top you can see responsibilities, and down you can see essential activities. Move to the next slide. Okay. Now, from this, I'm going to only share with you the essential attributes that's on the advertisement. So I've cut out the essential attributes. Now, when you ever see a job advertisement, you need to understand, and I'm 100% correct in my statement, that this advertisement is created from the knowledge and skills. This is what it is, nothing else. They have actually put the knowledge and skills, and the job responsibilities are just functions. So you have to have your key attribute KSA, knowledge, skills, and abilities to perform the job. So again, bottom line, what is important is your KSA, because this is what you're going to put in application letter, not the job description. Most people, I've gone to a lot of CVs in my life. I've got 12 years experience of being in the HR. My recruitment basically is local and international. I've done international recruitment and things too. So what people do, a lot of people do a mistake. The mistake is around where they try to build up application for job descriptions. You don't do that. Job descriptions are basically guidelines for your work function. They don't tell you what to do. They are not the selling point. That is not the brain. The brain comes in your KSA. So that's what I listed there, the essential attributes. Further to my next slide, we are going to do is now we are going to diagnose or post-mortem the key essential. So what I've done is I've red lines and I've just put it into KSA section. Again, this is important. Why? Because from once you know what is the KSA, then from there you can start drafting your application letter. You just don't draft application letter like that. You have to understand the key attributes, and that is the KSA. So if you look at that, it says bachelor's degree in computer science. So basically, any qualifications and things is your knowledge. It's very true statement. It is your knowledge. Because why? Because to get a degree, you have done a lot of sacrifice of your mental capability. You have studied day and night. You sacrifice so many things, right? So that basically is your knowledge. And then how it is justified by getting a degree. So whenever you see a requirement, a bachelor's degree, you should know that is your knowledge. Key attribute, and that is your part of summing of your KSA. And then you go in detail down, then more in detail. So bachelor's degree is your knowledge. That is says minimum 3 years of solid experience. So now talk about experience. Experience, remember, my friend, is skills, because this is something you acquired over time. That's why it says 3 years. It says 10 years, because it is acquired over time. When you get your degree, when you get your knowledge, you don't get experience. Experience comes by walking through, as Ronald mentioned, right? You have to create a vision. You have to create a goal for yourself. And that vision, that goal makes something of your skills. Always remember that. And then understanding further down is hands-on experience. So hands-on experience, again, talk about experience, it's just your skills, right? So, and then going further down, and then it says strong as it says the Microsoft Cisco certification is important. So again, when something is very important as part of knowledge, it is your knowledge. So you have a degree, that's okay, right? But to further support your qualification, sometimes you have to do additional certifications. Usually in HR too, you have to do further certifications. When I did my HR, it was only HR. But I realized that I have to understand OHS. I have to understand training. So I went out and got my certificate in OHS, in HR, because those are the supplement knowledge that we need. So that is why it's always in the knowledge. So anything that is as part of certification is always part of your knowledge. And then you look at other things like strong sense of information. Now, so we've covered knowledge and skills, right? So abilities, remember, is something that basically you can't see. You can't see abilities. You can't see just like that. You can see your knowledge through degrees, right? And degrees, that's a knowledge. You can see it. You can see your skills through references given by a previous employer. This person has experience, so you could see that. But ability is where most employers fail, because they tend to think that ability comes with knowledge and skills. It's not, because it's something that is within yourself. It's something that you have to put out there from you, and it's something internal. It's more to do with your attitude. So things like having a strong sense of information, that's abilities. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody can put out their abilities. Team player, that's another ability. Because this is something you don't get to degrees or get to skills. You have to learn over time. You learn teamwork. You know, people say, like you come across organizations where other employees say that this person has an attitude problem, because that's okay about his abilities, which are sensed by other people. So ability is something you can't say that I have it. It will be given over time, and it will be observed by others. So if I say I'm a team player, it's not justified, because I have to get opinions from other people to say, is he a team player? Oh yes, he's a team player. Then normally it's valid. People usually say this, I'm a team player, I have a positive attitude, I have good communication, but how can it be justified? Never, because you have to ensure that it is portrayed to be accepted and by teamwork and other fellow colleagues of your organization or your peers. So when you need to understand this, right? So you get your sense of information, team player, communications, positive, positive and pleasant personality, reliable and mature. So these are some of your abilities. Because remember, it shapes part of you as a person. It supports your knowledge and your skills, that is your abilities. Now, my question is, how do you now make your competency-based brain curriculum after what I just showed you from from job application? How do we do a CV? Very important. So now let's look at this. Okay. Now, so this is the basic for example, right? This is the job you want to apply. So I've got that job application, and that is you. That is you, and that is now we have to create your CV. So you read and understood the job application. Now you have to do your CV. So we're going to understand now how we're going to do a CV. Now, before you're going to do your CV, you need to understand your own KSA. So you've understood the KSA from the job advertisement, right? You took a note, okay, degree, check, I got a degree, certification, tick, 5-year experience, tick. So you have done that KSA. Now, how do you do your KSA of yourself? Because remember, your CV is a reflection of you. It is your competency-based CV. So where is your KSA? How do you interpret your KFC? KSA. I almost said KFC. So how do you interpret your KSA? Now, I'm going to share with you a very important slide now, right? And this is called the 3H. So this is you, right? This is you. And now we're going to do a understanding of KSA, how KSA fits in yourself. Now, remember, KSA is knowledge, skills, and abilities. Now, when we talk about knowledge, right? That's in you. Where do you think knowledge is in you? Remember, it's a 3H. So whatever you do, start with a 3H. So where do you think knowledge is? So I'm teaching here. I'm taking a webinar. So I'm telling you things. You're taking notes. So where are you taking all this? Where is this going? It's going in your head. So remember, head is your knowledge, because everything goes in your head. So even if you do your degree in other things, that's a mental sacrifice. That's coming from your head because your brain is in your head. That's why everything should go there. So now, head is knowledge. The other one is skills. What is skills? What part of the H in your body makes your skills? Okay, here it comes. It's your hands. The reason why, because you store here and then you translate it here, your head. So whatever you learn, you put it to practice. And when practicing, what do you use? You use your hand, supported by your head. That's why some of the times when you do a mistake, the boss says use your head. That is why, because it should come from here and translate to there, your hand. So as part of the 3H, you always remember knowledge is your head, the skills is your hands, because you transfer things from your head to your hands. Like for example, you're doing computer programming, right? JavaScripting, PHP, what you've done, and then from there you use your hands to do coding. So that's how it is translated. Now, the tricky part or the last bit is your abilities. Which H makes your abilities? As I mentioned before, this is something that you can't see, but you always say it's there because it's something that comes from within. So when I talk within, it's your heart. Remember, your abilities of people with attitude is your heart. Because as I said, it's something we can't force you to do it. You have to do it yourself. Like for example, here when I'm taking this webinar with my with me and Ronald's experience sharing with you, obviously we can change your knowledge, we can change your skills, but we can't change your abilities or attitude. You have to change yourself. For example, after this, you might all of you would be encouraged, or I would probably go back and look at your CV, how you can do a competency or a UK based CV. Right. So you have got knowledge, you have to physically go and do it. It's your responsibility, not ours. We have done our part. We have given the knowledge, we have given the skills, but it is your own capacity, your own abilities, your own attitude where you will go and do it yourself. So again, as I said, it's something that you have to do it yourself. Right. So now you know your job advertisement is there. You've drawn your KC from there. Now you know yourself. You've drawn your on your KC. You know what knowledge you have, right? You know what skills you have. You know what abilities you have based from the KC from the job description. Now you have to now put it into your application and put it into your CV. Now, key thing important here, my friends, is not the application in this stage. It's your CV, because something that stands out of sale is your CV, not your application letter. Because we as employers, to be honest, we hardly ever look at application letters. Well, but although it's a requirement, but we always look for CV for all the information. Everything we need is basically should be in the CV. So then, and how you portray your CV and how you give it to us, it's important. Because remember, this is a very true statement that we as employers or recruiters, we only spend 30 seconds looking at a CV. Let's imagine we put an application out and then we've got 50 CVs. Do you expect us to spend 2 minutes in going through one CV? No. The maximum we spend is 30 seconds. So in that 30 seconds, you have to give it everything. So that is why a CV is very important, because your application, always see it like this. Your application is like a tap in the water. The application is like a tap in the water. When you open, the water flows. But your CV is a reservoir of water that's out there. The reservoir is your CV, and the water and the reservoir is your CV. The water and the tap is your application. Because when you want some water, you open and you get enough. But we want to get detailed, always have to go to the pool. That is the reservoir. So always see this. Application is just the tap. Your CV is the whole information, the pool of information. So that's why it's very important. And when I end, I'm going to give you some points and some industry experiences of how we dealt with some of these situations and do's and don'ts of a good application and a good application letter. Now, and which is I'm going to cover now. Right. So key important pointers for your CV. Now I'm going to spend a bit more time on this because it's very important, because it makes you know how you're going to do your CV, right? So important point of CV is your CV should be based only on your KSA, competency, UK based CV. So when you talk about your KSA, you should always have your CV, right, based on your knowledge, skills, and your ability. These are very important. Don't move away from this. These are the important elements, because again, you saw this in the job advertisement, and you'll have it further in your application, but broken down into your CV. So when you said UK based CV, what I basically mean is to have a achievement based CV. That's what it says. You know, people now, we as employers, we don't want to know. Look at CV. We don't want to know what you did. We don't want that. Most people, what people do have it is they put all the JDs in there. We don't want that. We don't, because it's already there. We want to know what you have achieved. We do not want to know what you have done, but want to know what you have achieved. So that is why it's called UK based CV, because it's achievement based CV, where we show your achievement. So usually a good template of a CV would be your organization where you worked, few job descriptions, and what you have achieved. That's what I'm going to cover my second point. My second point says achievement based CV. Shout out your achievements. So the key thing is to shout out your achievements, because what you have done as JD doesn't tell us that if you have the right person with the right skills and for the right job, that doesn't tell us. Your achievement will tell us. So you need to break it down into achievements. Now you may ask me, how would do an achievement based CV, right? And I can tell you that in the next bullet point, where it says don't tell everything you've ever done, or like in the JD. So number one mistake of most people who do their CVs, what they do is they copy and paste their JDs from the internet, or probably from their JDs and list it there. Never do that, my friends. Never copy and paste JDs. The reason why, because there are certain things you won't know that you can put it there. So always list what you have done. Use it as a guideline, but always list what you have done. The reason why I'm asking you to list, because when you list it down, then you will pick some of your achievements. Like for example, while writing it down yourself, you recall that for probably one of the payroll officer went on maternity leave. So you were the relieving payroll officer. You were trained to that. So what you do is writing it down. But one thing you fail to realize, that is not a JD, that is a achievement, because you were never asked in your original JD to be a relieving payroll officer. You were instructed, which took you to that extra initiative, to that milestone. So that is an achievement. That is why you should put it as an achievement, not as a job description. That is why I'm telling you, my friends, move away from copying pasting JDs. List it down line by line, so that you can, from there you can figure out what you have achieved. Another example would be when you probably took on a acting role, right? As I mentioned, maternity, right? Maternity payroll. So that's probably something to do. Another thing would be when you took up a special project, whereby you were asked to lead this project, or you were asked by your manager or somebody else to create a vision or a goal for this, or lead the team, something like that. So you've done it. So again, that is part of not your job description. That is part of your extra thing you have done, which is your achievement. So that goes in your achievement. You know, I have people asking this, like, I don't think I've never achieved anything. You have achieved, but you don't know that. You have, everybody in life has achieved something, but we don't know that. Only when we get recognized through certificates, then we know what we achieved. So if you look at achievements, our achievements, I've got certificate in this, certificate this. So that's how we see achievement. So achievement is not just about certificates. Achievement is what you have done to add value, what you have done extra to support your own job role, to support your goal. That is achievement. You taken a leadership role in the community. That's leadership. That's achievement. But you don't know. So always be smart and ensure that you don't list it from the internet, because the caveat there is you will lose some of your achievements which you want the employer to see. As an employer, I want to see what you've achieved, not what you have done. Very important. Condense formatting to maximize branding and minimize page. Now, this is very important. Condense formatting. And this is what we call a UK by CV. If I go back to my previous slide, right? On here, this is a achievement by, a UK by CV. This is what you need to do now. Because a UK by CV allows you to maximize a lot of things, and that is maximize and condense information and minimize your space. So as a CV, you don't want to see a lot of information, but that information can be available only if it's condensed. So this is a UK by CV, where you basically have like information, like your personal information about you, other attributes, interests, hobbies on a column, and then on the right, you basically list important details. Now, you may ask me, how can I make an achievement by CV, UK by CV? It's very simple. It's very simple. You don't have to go online and buy softwares or apps. Like for example, you have zt.com, they charge you about $7, you get templates. Download templates, you can make your CVs. You know, you don't have to do that. You have to buy things. Because nowadays, in this era, one thing you should always keep at the back of your head, which is again knowledge, is you have to work smart, not hard, because of the resources available. It's very simple. You know, how you could do it is just if you have a Microsoft Office. Nowadays, if you don't know, Microsoft Office has made life very easy for everybody. So, if example, if you have Microsoft 360, you can just open that, go to open, right, and then there's a tab called templates. Just tap their CV, and when you tap their CVs, you'll get templates in Word. Trust me, my friends, you'll get thousands of templates, similar templates which I have on the slide, templates like this. So what you do, just edit. As I said, you need to work smart, not hard. Even like if I have to make certificates, you know, I don't have to go and learn Acrobat, Publisher, or I don't have to go and Photoshop, learn Photoshop. I go to PowerPoint, open template, certificates. I get thousands of templates. I just change the templates. There you go. So it's saving time. It's saving energy. It's making you very resourceful and skillful. Because in organizations where your employer wants something, you have to know where to go. And this is some of the things you could use. So to make an achievement by CV, UK by CV, just go to Word, or find templates, use the templates. And honestly, your CV is going to be in the format of what you want to be. That is a UK by CV. It's very simple, not rocket science. It's very simple. So I'm hoping that after this, my presentation, most of you will be challenged to go and relook at your CV and see how you can add value in your CV, because this will add value in ensuring that you are able to get a possible interviews. To be very honest, when I was seeking employment, and then I basically, when I changed this is true, I put my hand on my heart, and when I say this, I changed my CV to a UK by CV, and whenever I did any applications, I was very very honored to say that almost everywhere I sent, I got interview calls. Just because my CV got branded. And I was recognized through this. So I'm honestly telling you, it works, my friends. If you are trying to seek employment or trying to change your career, use UK by CV, because it will stand out and it will be tantamount to your own objectives, and this will showcase the employer that you have the required KSA for this, and you will call for the interview. Right. So the other point is, don't include personal information such as age, race, marital or health status. Now this is very important, right? That whenever you're doing your CVs, you don't necessarily have to put your age. For age, you could put down your date of birth, but not you could put your month and year, but not actual date. Race, marital status, and health. The reason why you can put it, but the caveat is it can be subject to discrimination. And I'm telling you this because we, as employers, we know this, that when you put things like age, race, marital status, this can be subject to discrimination. For example, age, about age, right? When doing your CV application, you might have the right. We see you very well fit for the role, but and then we see the age. Okay, we see the age. This person is in late 40s, but he has the right skills and things, but the age is in 40s. We need someone who is less or who is more probably hands-on. Although age comes with experience, but the employer still discriminates. The reason why, because they want someone who is able to fit in, and they would have perception that this person won't fit in just because he's in the age of 40s. See my point? So they tend to discriminate. Very true. Same thing with marital status. Don't need to put there married or single. You're not applying for any application for a dating app or something. You're not doing that. You're applying for basically a job application, and that being single or married basically that has nothing to do with that. But again, if the employer needs more clarification, they can ask you in the interview. And race too, don't need to mention which race you are, because all of us, we want to create a culture. As Ron mentioned, we have to have the culture, and the culture itself is under DI, diversity and inclusion. We want to create a diversity and inclusion. So if you put their race, they'll type, oh, this person is this race, so they'll not discriminate. Although they have diversity and inclusion as part of their culture and they have respectable workplace policies, but they'll still discriminate. And also with the health, not need to put there on health. Like for example, one time I was doing an interview with my general manager, a newly appointed GM, and then after the interview, I summed the interview and I said, now I'm going to ask you a very important, a very personal, important question, and I asked a question. Now, so can you tell me? Would you like to tell me any medical conditions you have now, which you want to disclose while we're here in this room? Any medical condition? And the person said no, I'm fit and fine. So that's fair. And then the person left. As soon as the person left, my GM turned to me and said, Hitesh, don't you think that's a discrimination? You're asking people's health status. And I replied in a very polite manner. I said, Madam, basically, I don't think if it's part of a job role, it's not discrimination. And for example, if other person, the person has epilepsy, you find out the person has epilepsy. So what would happen is we have to, if we hire the person, which we will not discriminate, hire the person, we have to make adjustments to the workplace. We have to ensure the person's safety, because as an employer, we have a duty of care for the person. Because, like for example, while working in a previous company, we were doing pulse operation, and if a person has epilepsy, we have to be very careful how we put shift on the person. Like for example, during epilepsy, person has to take a pill at 9 o'clock, and when the person takes that pill, it's a strong pill. They have to rest. They have to take at least 8 hours of rest after the pill. It's a strong pill. So if we know that, then we can design a roster where the person pill hours is adjusted, other than putting on the person on a 9 p.m. shift. And then what the person does is tries to avoid the pill, because if he takes the pill, he might have to sleep or get dozed off. So he'll try to avoid the pill, and when he avoid the pills, he might get his attacked. So this is why it's very important to ask questions in the interview with the concern of the person in the room at the same time, so that you can get details. Same thing with asthmatic. Asthmatics usually have people because of high and low temperature. Because the temperature is too high, the person can get asthma, but the person can get asthmatic. But the person won't get asthmatic just like that. Only when the person is in the cold room, goes out in the sun, and comes again to high temperature, fluctuation of temperature can cause asthmatic. So you need to understand that. So that person, that's why you should have always a provisions to allow people even to bring blankets if they can, if they want to, just to prevent them from getting attacked. So these are important questions. Again, we're not discriminating. We are trying to make a justified decision, right? Because you are the right person, you have the right KSA, but we have to ascertain that how we can support and help you, and not just discriminate you because you got asthma or you got epilepsy. We have a duty of care, how we can employ you and how we can also look after your health. It's important. That's why you don't put all those things in. So if you have asthma, or if you put those things like that, the employer will same time discriminate you. So that's why very important. Because what I'm trying to say that is this will prevent you from going in the interview room. The last thing is you have the right knowledge and skills, but by putting this you get discriminated. So is it fair on you? No, it's not fair on you. It's not fair on anybody, because you want the job. And why? We employer, because you have put the information, we find that information discriminatory. We find that information a bit of in favor of us, so we discriminate you. So it's very important. Now, it's not always that you always get discriminated in the CVs. You will also get discriminated in the not in the CV, but you get also discriminated in the interviews. Right? It's very, you might get discriminated in interviews too. Like, for example, very quickly, sharing an example. One time there was one interview happening, and with the GM and one lady, so she came for the interview. She basically was the right candidate for a job. She quietly impressed the GM in the interview. He was impressed, and he actually verbally said, "I think you are the right person for a job." He was really impressed, because usually when employees they get impressed, they try to show their emotions and things, which you never should do. You should hold it until you make a decision. So he actually went, and then he said, "Okay, no, I think you're the right person. Yeah, I find it very interesting for the role and things like that." And then usually the interview, when you end up the interview, has the question like, "Do you have any questions for? Do you anything you want to add to that?" So when he said that, and this lady said, "Okay, sir, I just have one thing to say. Currently, I am basically 4 months pregnant." This is what she said. So she was being honest in her statement. She said, "I'm 4 months pregnant." And then same time, she could predict, and she could see how the employer's face changed. Employer's face, she could see it same time. I said, "Oh, okay. The emotions, the body language, they just everything just can speak for it." And then what happened? She didn't get a job. She got discriminated just because before that question she was a tick. Just because she said she was 4 months pregnant, the employer tried to discriminate, and then she knew it. And then what happened? She took it to the labor court. This is a true statement. Eh? This is a true story. She took it to the labor court to a final case for unfair for discrimination, and then she actually put up a case against the employer. And the employer went for the hearing and things like that. And then basically what happened? As part of the compensation, the lady put it into statement that she reveals in the conversation, "I felt I had the job, or I could see that I was that person, but just because I was 4 months pregnant, I didn't get the job." And then she then asked for compensation would be to get the job. But the GM then said, "We have given the offer to somebody else." But then the court of law said, "No, there is a clear discrimination. You have to take on board." And then what happened? The employer had to go back to the person, tell him that we have rejected offer, and then he had to take on board. So these are very important things sometimes to put out there, because these are some things we see, we know. So that's why we have to share with you, because discriminations do happen, and we don't want you to be part of it. So always prevent things like age, race, marital status on your CV, because this will prevent you from entering that interview room, which we all want. We all want to be interviewed. Either we get a job or not, that doesn't matter, because through interviews we gain experience. We want to do as many interviews as we can. I know a lot of people would have done about 30, 40 interviews after they got one job, but that makes them the better person. So always, right? Some of the key things that we have picked up and important to share. And also list employment in a reverse chronological order. So when I mean reverse chronological order is where you put your latest employment on top, your latest qualification on top, and then going down. Don't ever start your CV with your primary school on top, and then you go down to your degree. The reason why we employer, as I said, we only use 30 seconds to find information, and then we don't expect us to screen down to see where your degree or your diploma is, where it's in the bottom. We don't do that, because why? To get recognized, to get branded, information has to be out there for them to cite and to be outstanding. So always put your employment, anything in the reverse chronological order, like employment 2015 current, and then job description, and then from there down you put your achievements of the organization. Second organization, where you last worked previously, organization, Job description, very less job description. Remember, no copy and paste, your own words, and then bottom achievements, what you've achieved in that, and then you go down and then you build your CV. Very important. Don't do that mistake of putting all your primary school, because primary school is irrelevant now. Irrelevant now. As a wise man says that you can't do today's business using yesterday's method, thinking to be successful in tomorrow's business. Same thing. What we want is relevant now. We can't use old details now to build up things. Just use what's relevant there. Even you can avoid your primary school. It doesn't matter because it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. You can avoid your primary school. Just put relevant qualifications. As I said, right? As I said, you can't be expecting to do today's business using SS methods to be successful in tomorrow's business. You can't. Same thing with your CV. You can't be using old things on top and then expecting you to get an interview for tomorrow. You won't. So, you have to think. You have to think laterally. You have to think laterally to understand what is your brand, and your brand is what's current. Always remember that. Make sure your formatting is consistent with font size never smaller than 10 point, and don't use fancy fonts. Right? This is very important. Avoid doing all. Formatting should be consistent. Use one font. If you may ask, one of the best 3 fonts you could use for CVs, I would say one would be Times New Roman, the other one would be Arial, and the third one would be Calibri. There's the 3 basic fonts that are very standard formats or professional fonts that you could use. Very important. And don't make it too small, 10. Because again, we as employers, we want to spot things. And if it's small, how do you expect us to spot things? We can't spot things. We can't. So make it outstanding. Outstanding things would be big things you can make bigger would be your names, your qualifications, all those. And then other things can just follow. Right? But don't make it less than 10 points. And then grammar check, very important, right? Grammar check is very important. I've done so many vetting applications in CVs. I've seen a lot of error. And to be honest, once we pick errors, that becomes a cross for applicants. We see that. Your structure of grammar, everything is very important because we expect it to be high quality. Always, as Ron also mentioned, you could use third-party checks to ensure that you're submitting the right things. And then lastly, convert your PDF, your final document to PDF version because it's a professional way of giving your documents. Always convert it into PDF. And after converting, check the PDF. Sometimes during conversions, things basically get distorted. So how do you convert PDFs? Basically, it's in the Word application itself. And you go to Word, save as, where there is options, file as, save as, Word document format, go down, pick PDF. It will select to PDF. Or you could use a online converter, PDF to convert it. Very important. And yes, and there's one more thing just to add. I'm about to finish off. Another one more thing to add would be attire is very important. Attire, how you dress for the interviews is very important. Order is very important too. I can share a lot of this order in attire. Attire I could share you one time is when we were doing an interview for our accounts officer, and we had one person who actually came in a Converse shoes. That's okay, socks, 3/4, and then he was wearing this shirt printed M&M on the front. M&M, I don't mean the chocolate, I mean the wrapper. So he enters the room in that format. And to be honest, interview was good. He did a very good job in the interview. He knew the KSA was there, knowledge ability was there. But unfortunately, we had to the panel again. We have panel, telemedicine. The panel, the financial controller said, based on his attire, we have to reject him. This one. It was very disappointing. Yeah. Even more disappointing was for me is that I would expect him to probably jump on the table and probably do some M&M reps for me, but he failed to do that too. If he did that, I would have given a job. I'm sorry, he didn't do that. So he failed. So attire very important. How you dress, it speaks. Other thing would be odor. It's very important because why I'm saying odor, because usually in interview rooms people sweat. People get nervous, they sweat. One time I remember this person was sitting on the table, and then when he put his hands, when he left, there was a pool of water because he was sweating. People get nervous. So order is very important. Probably just have some prayer done so that you don't discomfort anybody in the room. This discomfort is very important, because once we get the discomfort or sense of nervousness, you're being nervous. That basically makes us bit thrown back in selecting you for the role. We know people get nervous, but you have to contain yourself. Get tips. Make yourself, practice yourself so that you can sell yourself as a brand. That's what you are. You are a brand for it. Very important. And just on a bit on reminders on your pointers on your application letter. But it's important too, application letter. So as I said, your CV is a reservoir. Your application letter is the tap water that you're going to just use. So important pointers is always read information about the company and position. Again, as I mentioned, very important to know the organization that you want to work for, and also ask yourself, is this organization you want to work for? Put the question in mind. It's not about just applying. It's not about applying, but it's also your personal choice. It's all about your personal choice. It's the organizations you want to work for. Do a bit of research background on the organizations. Not normally on just on the structure of the company, but also on the culture to better understand. Because I know most employees who have left the company, and after 1 month they have asked to rejoin. The reason why? Because after 1 month or 2 months they realize that this was not the right company for them. Not right company for them. So it's very important. So what lesson is there for us to learn? Whenever you have also resigned, always ensure that you are always on good terms. I remember one time one person resigned, and he was going to a better organization. And what happened here? He actually he tried to be a bit cheeky. So he tried to miss work. Giving his resignation, he tried to miss work. He tried to hide information, not proper handover. No, he's not trying to give a proper handover. He was doing all those, and then he left. And then after 1 month, 2 months, he tried to get back to the employer, and the employer said, "No, thank you very much. Just because what you have done in the last month is unacceptable." So that's why even if you resign from a company, give your best, because you don't know when it might come as a favor to you. Always remember that. Don't just think that you're going to be a better organization. So you could ill-treat or you could do whatever you want. But remember, this organization helps you put food on your table. Where is the value in that? How do you respect that? Respect them by 1 month, not abiding policies, procedures, missing work, being disobedient, engaging in subordination. That's how you pay back. Never do that. It's just a tip. Always resign good faith and do your best till the last day of your organization. Open your letter by describing your interest. Very simple format, right? Always start. Just remember, your application letter has to be just 1 page. So you start by describing your interest. For example, you say that my name is so and so. I refer to the application that was. I like to apply for the said position. That is very simple. And then from there you outline that should be 1 sentence. After that you outline your qualification. This is where your KSA comes in. So talk about your qualifications. I have a degree in HR management, and I have been working in this company for past 6 years, 7 years. Talk about your qualification, and then go and do experience. Break it down. Experience. Talk about your experience. As I said, it comes with experience, comes with your skills, your hands. So I have 10 years in experience in this. I've also got this certification, all those, right? So break it down. And then lastly, you include your personality. Personality is your abilities. I'm a team player. I can work with zero supervision. I'm a fully committed employee. Attendance 0. Record all those. 100% attendance, no absenteeism. Put all those there. But again, abilities is something, as I said, it's subjective. It's anecdotal, meaning you cannot validate that, because, like for example, in an interview, I match your knowledge and your skills. Everything is okay, right? But something I can't bet is ability and attitude. That is why I'm always in favor of this statement where most of the people say we should recruit for attitude. I don't believe this. Even Simon, who's on LinkedIn, he shares a lot of motivating videos. On every video said you should hire for attitude, but something I don't believe in. When you should never hire for attitude. You should never hire for attitude. or higher probabilities. It's a wrong statement. And the reason why is because, for example, to ask a person, okay, are you able to, in your previous employment, were you able to meet your KPIs? Yes, I was able to meet your KPIs. Okay, that's good. Okay, attendance. If I ask you attendance, if I were to put you in 3 ratings, good, excellent, good, and bad, how do you see yourself? The person would say, obviously excellent. But in the previous employment, he might be coming to work once in a week. But he's saying he's excellent there. And what do you do? Oh, that's good. So what we did, we have made a pre-justice decision where without validating that, we just secure him. And then when he starts work, he starts missing work. And the interview said excellent. So where's excellent now? There's no excellence. The only excellent is us. Because we made that excellent decision of saying that attributes or attitude is good for recruitment. By the decision, never. Always recruit on knowledge and skills, K and S. Abilities is something you find out on the job. And how do you validate abilities? Is where provision comes in. Provision, that's why we have provision. Provision is just to gauge your abilities. So punctuality, performance, everything is abilities is a true provision of the company. So always keep that in mind. Never, you can put the abilities, no problem. You could say I'm a team player and all those because you believe in yourself. You believe in yourself, there's no doubt in them. You can believe yourself, but you also have to make the employees believe you that you are the right person. And then express appreciation. Express appreciation is basically just thanking the employer. It's very important just to thank the employer. Gratitude, like to thank you to your time for taking your time to reading this application. It's very important because it's something, it's not easy. It's not easy taking the time and going through, because one thing I tell you, and which I also have told most of my other employees too, that writing CVs, calling CVs, interviews is imperative. The reason why? Because we are facing unproductive hours doing this, but for productive reason. And the productivity is hiring the right person. So we do so many unproductive hours, putting so many unproductive hours to find one productive employee. So that's why we should be recognized. They should be thanked for that, because they could be doing something better, doing something else. Because looking at CV is not productive. Do you agree? It's not productive because how we are adding value to the company? No, because we just reading CVs. And some people, you tell you to read CVs, they can spend whole 8 hours. Because why? Because then you do. They want to kill time. That is why it's very important. As I said, we only spend 30 seconds so that we can just move on and then find a productive person. And the productivity is in the KSA in the application further than the CV. So that's what we look for. So help us doing that by just ensuring that you have the key competencies, the KSA listed well and addressed well. And then you close the letter. Close the letter basically give your contact details if so, and then please refer to the CV for my further skills, knowledge, and abilities. Interview anytime, and yours sincerely. That's it. And then lastly, as I said, convert your application right to PDF as final version, because it's the format. It's very important. So just before I end, I just like to also just talk about a few things about us as youths in terms of this is my final my own point, final version of youth. Like we all youth, and then we as an employer, and this is very true again. One thing, and if anybody asks me what is my difficult challenge or my hardest challenge in my work life is HR, and I would say recruitment. It's not recruitment, but it's recruiting the millennials. It's you guys, it's us. See, I'm tapping my threshold, my chest, because I'm also a millennial. I see myself as a millennial. So it's a very challenge in trying to recruit millennials. The reason why, because we have no loyalty. We have no loyalty. Okay, I'll just quickly I'll tell you where I'm coming from. Now we look at 3 generations, right? We have our grandparents, we have our parents, and then we have us, because these are 3 generations, right? Generation Y, X, Y, and the millennials. Right? Generation Z. Three generations. Now, if you look at our grandparents, right? They work for survival. They work for survival. The reason why? Because there was no other options. Because they had a large family, 8, 9 people. They had only one brother was going to school, the rest had to work. They had to support the family, right? They were a huge family. So they work for survival because only one person was working, right? Or the rest on the farm. Or no, it was hard to get employment. So once you get your employment, you have to be loyal. So our parents worked for survival, and they were very loyal. Although they were abused best by the employer, they still continued. Their loyalty was great because they would know if you lose the job, they would know where to go. And again, at home, they would be based by their parents. So they used to stick with loyalty. Now, moving to the next generation, our parents came. So, what did our parents work for? Do you think our parents work for general life? For survival? No. The reason why? Because that was taken by our grandparents. So, what our parents worked for was basically standard of living. Standard of living would mean things like a better house, plasma TV, probably smart TVs, microwaves, cars. So these were basically it was to have a better roof over your head. This is our parents. They work for standard of living. Because why? Survival was taking care of our grandparents. So their grandparents basically survived them through the process. So now they want a bit better. And here our parents' loyalty decreased. The reason why parents' loyalty decreased from our grandparents because we had better options. Because digitalization, commercialization came about, technology got reduced in the 80s. So there was now more variety of employment coming up. So there was less loyalty because they could switch jobs. So loyalty decreased. Loyalty decreased. Okay. Now we talk about us, the millennials, the ones born in 1990s, late 80s. Right. So my question is, what do we work for? When you get employment, what do you work for? Do you work for survival? No. Do you work for standard of life? No. Why? Because our parents are there. Take care of it. COVID is a very good example. Like, for example, most of them who are renting and things like that, when COVID hit, most of them went back to their parents. So anything happens in life, we know we have our parents. So most of us go to uni. And now in this era, we bring cars. This is a reason why, because that was part of the standard of living supported by our parents. So we don't have to look into that. So survival standard of living is all taken by our parents, grandparents. So what do we work for? What is our goal? Anybody knows here? What we work for is basically we work for quality of life. Remember that. We want the best thing in this era. I think Ron also mentioned this. We want quality. We want best things in life. We want data on our phone, nothing else. We can't live without phones. We want the latest gadget. This is what we want. Because we are working for quality of life. And with us, millennials, remember one thing, our loyalty is zero. We are the most untrusted, disloyal person we ever find. The reason why? Because if you give me the job, if not, I don't want it. I can go somewhere else. Because we have so many options. We have now options to do things. We can options to start our own business online. There's so many options. If I don't have a job now, I can start my own business. It's very easy. Before our grandparents, they couldn't do that. But now we can do it in your fingertips. You can just start this today. Keep your job, don't worry. Because our loyalty has decreased. This is a big challenge for us. But doesn't mean that we are bad. Doesn't mean we are bad. Being less loyal, having no loyalty is not bad. For us, millennials, one thing I could say, although we don't have loyalty, but we have passion. We should have passion. As youth, we have a lot of passion. Passion to do things, passion to venture, passion to learn more things, passion to keep learning, keep going. That's something that drives us. Not loyalty, it's passion. Because with passion, loyalty will come in. So I don't talk about loyalty, talk about passion. You do have a strong passion. We are all youths. We are very passionate about things we want to do. All of you have already set up your goals already. You want to do this, you want to do that. You are passionate. So your passion drives you. And with passion, your loyalty will come in. Always important to remember that. Always important. But this is something I always find hard in recruiting millennials. It's just because we as employees, we have to change our mindset, how we recruit them. We have to change our concept. Things like flexibility. Giving them things like 1 hour hotspot to use internet, all those things. Because we have to move with them. We have to move with the new generation. And then we have to move with passion. Culture and everything will come as part of the passion. Loyalty will come as part of it. You can't force loyalty. You can't force culture. You have to just force passion for them. Motivate them, develop them. As I mentioned, development is something that's come up now. In this new era, Before, employers used to recruit like that, but now employers are focusing on development, career building, talent management, because this is passion building. So if you get the chance, have goal, live your dream, live your passion, and then this will basically make you the right person in and the branded person out there for anyone in Fiji. Okay, so thank you everyone. That was end of my presentation.